because each one of those sales courses are for a particular context of selling or customer engagement. So oftentimes we'll try and cause the imbalance of the wheel will cause symptoms, which will then, managers will react to those to try and fix those symptoms, and all they do is exacerbate the problem even further. So leading sales teams is really about getting those things in balance and then managing that, designing that process and managing that engagement architecture. So a quick example, and then we can dive into a whole bunch of questions, if you have any, because you've got all the answers now, right? I'll just provide a quick model about how this stuff can work. All right, I'm happy to go into more detail on any specific stuff that you've got. So HubSpot are an American-based company that sells software. Has anyone heard of HubSpot? Yep. They sell CRM systems, they got inbound marketing stuff. It's pretty cool. All right. So they use what they call inbound methodology. So this is what they use. This is what they preach, evangelize, and this is what they say businesses are, what they should be doing. And it's very much in line with what we've been talking about tonight. They've got the goal about becoming promoters, and they use the software then that enables this for businesses. So what happens then is you would go and you'd hear about HubSpot like you have tonight. You might Google them, and then you'll go, righto, let's find out who they are. They start attracting traffic to their website. It's about figuring out your lead. This is like the leads thing at the beginning. Search engine optimization, making sure that you bring in those customers in. We all know these sort of things, that there's a nice juicy bit of content behind there. All you got to do is give your email address, and then you'll have all the answers to your problems when you've downloaded it and read it. Okay? But it just is a way of engaging. What they do really nicely though, once you've done that, is that they call you then a lead, and then they'll bring you into their thing. So what they'll do is they'll send you out an email, and they'll call you. And it's nice getting a phone call. Most salespeople don't call these. They tend to want to do it through emails. So you get this nice email, and this is where, to our point earlier, they're trying to offer value. So they said, okay, you've downloaded this document. Great, want to make sure it just came through. Did you get the document? Yes, I have. You've downloaded it? Yep. Had a chance to read it yet? No. Probably read it over the next few days. Okay, well look, if you want to send it out to any of your other friends, just forward that on and they can get it too. Well, okay, righto. I'll call you in a week, whatever. So a week goes by, they call you back. And they're saying, well, with that piece of content, okay, so they're not selling. They're trying to add value all the way through. So with that bit of content, did that actually help? Did you get from that what you were trying to get? Is it teaching you what you wanted to know? What goals are you trying to achieve? Well, I wanted to know about this. Well, here's another white paper that might help, or maybe there's this template that you can use or something like that. So they'll give you more stuff. All they're doing is taking you along on that journey by not selling you anything, but giving you value on the way through, okay? On lots of different stuff on the way. Then you'll get into this close phase, which clearly I don't like, but it's closing it down. It should be opening it up, because that's what they're trying to do. But then what they do is they start to get, once they become a customer, they get into this phase where they're really focused on delighting their customers that are using their products. But the cool way they do this is that, pardon me, the whole thing is integrated, the way that they engage customers. And there's a bunch of different sales functions. But so they've got the marketing team that do all the content, that sort of stuff, then they engage that there. They've got their series of emails that go out. Then they've got an inside sales team. So the inside sales team don't sell, they engage with the customer. And they make sure the customer's getting value in that phase, because it's just moving them along a little bit at the customer's own pace. Then they might engage them in a demo, which might involve then the outside sales team. And then if you want then someone's going to come out to your place and show you a customized demonstration, that sort of thing, it gets on to the outside sales team. So it's just different roles with different functions and therefore different skills. But all they're doing is nurturing the customer along that journey. And it works really well. The customers that engage with them are the right ones. Because if you disengage on the way through, you weren't going to be a customer that was going to be of value to them anyway. As opposed to Some CRM software lets you download it for free and then you can't figure out how to use it, so what do you become? A detractor of it. I tried using XYZ software and it doesn't work. So these guys don't want that because they want promoters. So you can't get it unless you actually, there is a free HubSpot I think, but you can't really get it unless you've actually gone through the process and really been engaged properly by the business. So, a few key points to finish off, then we'll get into the Q&A. So, this experience economy we're in is, it's profoundly different to the last 250 years of business. And if we think that most of the management literature that we read is all based on research, okay, if it's not within the last 10 to 15 years, it's out of date because it's a different economy. Right? We'll spend $3 to $4 on a cup of coffee because of the experience we're going to have. We'll change where we go from here to there based on experience. And customers define value in a whole range of different ways. But that experience is one key one. And it's about how we feel then as a person, which drives the economy itself. So it's changed significantly, no more than an industrial age. So customers have changed in how they purchase, how they make decisions. Well, we understand how they make decisions, but it's changing in how we get information to make decisions about what we're going to buy. So those traditional sales approaches just aren't relevant anymore. And we've got to actually, as businesses, put the effort into doing the work around figuring out who are those right customers, how do we build that alignment across the whole process, and how do we actually match up how we deliver value for customers all the way through, with the goal being to create those profitable promoters. Then our role is to implement it, review it, measure it, learn from it, and fine-tune it over time. So we can't rest on our laurels, we've got to keep improving all the time. Otherwise our competitors or the alternatives for our customers will come up with something new. So that's what I had prepared. There's a couple of extra slides if you want to talk some more about that stuff. I've got a website, I've got an email if you want to, I've got a regular email I sent out if you want some more on that sort of thing, just get in touch with me. But yeah, thanks very much. So let's do some Q&A. Yeah? Yes.
That was great. Amazon's coming to Australia, probably around the end of this year. How do you think, how can Australian businesses compete against Amazon? Are there any tips and so forth? Because I don't think we're prepared for it.
So does anyone know what Amazon's vision is? It's to be the most customer-centric business on the planet. Okay? So we're in trouble for a start, right? So these guys are serious about it. So when they started in '97, they still had that same vision. People thought they were a bit loopy because they were being customer-centric, but it's a long-term strategy. So my view is, will you figure out who your customers are and you deliver value for those customers, and you make sure that they have an experience where they want to tell their friends and their colleagues and their families that this was awesome. And if Amazon are offering a wonderful experience where it's going to take them away, you've got to find other ways of adding value or other ways of delivering value that Amazon can't. Because a lot of the stuff with Amazon is experiential, but it's still what they're selling most of the time is products, consumables. So we might have to get more into the value add side to it. So with artificial intelligence, so we're familiar with machine learning, those types of words we're all sort of okay with. So we're seeing that a lot of the AI stuff is appearing on websites now where it's trying to add extra value to you, or it's trying to answer questions that you've got rather than a person might have done before. Pardon me. I think that it can only help. And the more that we can use artificial intelligence to provide those services, then our role, like we just said with Amazon, is about trying to, how do we add more value? And we can do that as humans. But we can automate a whole lot of stuff that actually, and machine learning can actually bring out, if we've got a whole mess of customer data, if we had to pull through it and figure out what the insights were from that, you know, we'd be lucky if we could do it, but if we did do it, it could be pretty cool. But if we can use machine learning for that, that's the stuff that's the gold that we can use then to implement into our engagement with customers. So I think it's something we should embrace and try and figure out how to do it. And the organisations that have been more successful with customers over the years, pardon me, are the ones that have really figured out the insights from their data. So machine learning in that context is good. Some of the robots and chats, if we're doing AI so for me, if we're using AI for just reducing cost, then we're doing it the wrong way. So yes, it can reduce cost, but we've got to make sure it either adds value or at least delivers the same level of value rather than detracting from it. And a lot of times for the last 20, 30 years, businesses have just tried to reduce cost at the expense of the value that the customer gets from the whole thing. So it defeats the purpose. So it can be used for good or it can be used for evil.
Do you get involved in proximity marketing?
Oh yeah, sure. Not me personally. I'm a sure.
Sales at these days?
Yeah, because so some of the proximity marketing stuff that works really well, particularly in the retail space, is where you've got a customer that's already engaged with you. They've downloaded your app or they've done something, and then you can communicate with them through that. So they've already engaged with you in some way. So it's now, so once they're engaged with you, it's now then in that space where they're probably a promoter or they're looking to see what you do. And again, it's about adding value. So if they're walking by and you say, drop in now and do this, you'll get 5% off, or we'll give you buy one, get one free, something like that. Something fresh, you know. There's nothing wrong with that, because I think the challenge in that is that if we do a buy one, get one free or a discount for a new customer, someone we had to acquire, to me that's not a lot of value, and we've actually then created an expectation for them that's cheapened the experience in some respects. But if we're delivering value to people who are already engaged with us as being, they've downloaded the app or they've done something or they're part of our community, so to speak, then yeah, we should be doing that. Because the cost is lower as well of us to do it.
Great talk, I really enjoyed it. Just really interesting to see what's happening innovation-wise in sales. But I'm interested how this applies to, like I've had organisations where I sold a product or service, but now I'm doing a crowdfunding campaign. And I'm thinking, like, how does this apply to crowdfunding or to organisations like conservation groups or GetUp and the like?
So I think it applies perfectly, because what you're wanting from that is you want people to do something. It's either to invest money or to invest their time or to volunteer in some way. So they have to make a decision then to engage with you. So to me it's the same, I'd use the same model. And I'd find ways of articulating what the value is. And that's often the challenge, like if you want to engage people to be part of a crowdfunding or to be volunteers in it or something, you've got to work out who are the people that are going to connect with that, and then how are you going to engage with them, and how you're going to deliver value for them. And delivering the value might just be the reinforcement that they're making a difference in the world, that they are doing this or doing that, but you've got to figure out what that is. And then it's the same process for me.
That's great. I think it sort of tied it more strongly to what you were saying, because I suspected that it was applicable, but hadn't really quite worked out exactly the way it makes sense.
You're still selling something in that context. And the only way that you can engage with them is to figure out why and how. So yeah, we often don't go so much with the idea that we buy based on, we all make decisions based on what we value. And our values are easily displayed. And one of the great examples I like to use is women's makeup and stuff like that, and the cruelty-free products as against to the ones that aren't. Right? So there's a whole market of people who go, I'm for cruelty-free. If it's against animal testing, it's more of a value to me, and I'll buy that stuff and levitate towards that. And that's because those organisations have figured out how to engage those people on those messages. So there's a business called Nude by Nature, and some of the ladies that are nodding, which is good. And those guys have done a brilliant job of really engaging with their customers. And what they found with their customer groups, it was two different groups. One that were buying based on cruelty-free, their position they take on that. The other one was buying because it was a great product. So as soon as they figured out who those customers were, they pushed the messages for the cruelty-free more to that group than to the other ones because it wasn't of value to them. And they have a Net Promoter Score of 73. And their business has taken off because one of the things is they figured out how to deliver value to two distinct different groups. And they're value-based.
Actually, get your thoughts on call analytics, web analytics, Google analytics as part of the sales and marketing process.
Yep. So to me, all that stuff fits into that bottom line. One of the things that we don't do in businesses much is measure things.
Too busy getting customers.
Too busy working, too busy doing the busy stuff. But we don't offer measurement stuff. We sort of look at P&L and we look at cash flow and all sort of stuff, but do we actually measure what we've put in place? So has anyone seen Mythbusters? Those guys are great. So they're running experiments all the time. And what they do is they say an experiment's failed when they didn't get a result. So if they ran an experiment and they got a result, they learn from it. Okay, we do this stuff all the time in business, but we don't measure it. We don't take that same philosophy of, we've tried this, what do we learn from it? It didn't work, so we won't ever do it again. No, but what do we learn from it? And we measure those things. So the analytics and the measures around that is really, to me, really important. And it's sort of a separate thing that fits across it, which is why the implement, review, learn, improve, it's the action learning cycle that's been around for a long time as well. It's how we do things. In our own lives, right, we often use measurement if we want to try and achieve something, if we want to get fit or lose some weight or whatever it is we want to do, we'll measure all that stuff. And we'll figure out what works and what we eat that sort of doesn't agree with us, and we measure our blood sugar levels, and we measure our cholesterol levels in our blood and all those sort of things, and we figure out that stuff, and we measure it, and we eat salad or we take fish oil or whatever it is, and we measure it again, and we go, okay, this is working, this is not working. It becomes a business, we just look at the bottom line all the time, but all this stuff leads to the bottom line, which is the answer, if you like.
So if I'm in that business, there should be big costs in place for me.
Yes, as long as you convince them that there's value in it.
You all through your talking and going back many years ago, it was easy to get in contact with people to try and get in the door and talk to them, because purchasing officers wanted you to come in and talk to them so they could kick you out the door. Okay. Today, it is so hard to try and track down who is where and what in which division.
Yeah.
It must be a nightmare for salesmen today.
Nobody wants to be contacted.
No.
And
You
they,
can ring up a number.
Yep.
It'll go to another number.
Yep.
And what do you want to talk to them about? You can't get past the front door.
Yep. Most of the business people that aren't on LinkedIn are the ones that don't want to be contacted by salespeople.
Yeah, but you've got the best product on earth.
Yes.
It's so hard to get past that front door. And I just find it, well, I'm not in that time anymore, but I would be so frustrated today trying to get past that to get to the final person that makes the decision.
So to me then it's the answer is, how do you start to engage with those people at the start? And one of the key things, pardon me, is that's changing in sales, is in that first bit. So nobody wants to hear you talk about, hypothetically, nobody wants to hear that you talk about your product. But if you can get a conversation or a message to them that talks about a piece of insight that they couldn't get off Google, then you're adding value in the very first engagement piece. And then they'll open the door and talk to you. And that's the challenge. So what we've done is we've defined the challenge differently. It's not getting in the door, it's figuring out how do I make sure I add value in that very moment. And it's not just telling them what they already know or what they could find on Google. It's got to be some insight. So with the data analytics stuff, you've got to figure out what is the piece of gold information I can just drop straight in there and say, this is it. And they go, didn't know that. That's interesting. How do you do that? So now you're having a different conversation.
So you've got to work around it, in a sense. You've got to be smart.
You've got to engage them. Outsmarting was old last century.
Yeah, well, that's what worked in the last century.
Yeah. Well, me too. I was a young fellow though.
I guess it comes down to just pinpointing their pain point and providing a solution for them.
And that's so what I forgot name, sorry.
Faisal.
Faisal, that's right. What Faisal said was it comes down to figuring out that pain point and figuring out the solution. The problem with that today is that it's all on Google. So if I've got a pain in business or whatever it is, I could just Google it and find a dozen white papers on it, and I just read them and I go, those guys didn't have any value. What is it? So you've got to find out what the pain point is, what the solution is, and then you've got to figure out what is the one piece of insight that I could add to that conversation that is not being discussed now. And when you figure out what that is, that's doing the hard work because it's thinking about it rather than just running off at the mouth. Well, that's the challenge. And once you've figured out what that is, you're away. So I'm getting wound up. So I'm happy to answer any questions. You come and see me afterwards. But I think, yep.
What we'll do, if you can just stay there because Evan's going to move about things. But what we'll do too is, if you'd like to get up afterwards and have a few, there's some food and drinks and chat to each other and ask Mark some questions. So you're very welcome to stay around for a few minutes. If that's okay.
How about we thank Mark?
Thank you, Evan.